So I can already feel somebody having a conversation with me from a distance, which means they just plan for things to go their way once we get to that point of discussion. While that's happening, I'd like to discuss another thing that's going on with these limitation traps, these arguments. So essentially, we can say that a limitation is just taking things and pushing them into each other until they collide. And at the point of collision, without any recognition of what's happening outside of it, it's impossible to escape it. Pretty much like a black hole that you're being sucked into. Now, obviously, whatever it is that's being taken from the push into this collision, there's enough of it to push into that collision. So, assuming the universe is infinite, existence is infinite, then we can say that the materials that are being pulled from are just being transformed into matter that can collide with one another. And so here's what I think happens. Someone claims a collision, and they say that if you can't prove it wrong, it's now added to your life, to your existence. You're lured into proving it wrong because it seems obvious that it's wrong somehow because it doesn't make sense with everything else that's happening. Once you go in there, you get to this point where everything's been pushed together into a non-choice collision. They say either keep going or give up and admit that there's a limit here. Now, obviously, your argument could be, well, right here, there's no limit. But if you purposely make a limit, then there is one. But the only issue is they say that if you have to go back, then you have to turn around so that there was a limit. And because there was still a limit is still added to your life. Here's what you do in this situation. You just go back. That's all you do. This argument about there not being a limit, because if there was a limit, you wouldn't be able to go back. Their argument defeats itself. So here's where they say the limitation, you take it on, and then you get to the point where it collides, and then if you go back, you go through the limitation again, and you exit it. But here's what it tries to do here. It tries to trap you by pride, by saying, you're already here, you can't go any different direction now. Keep going, until it's unreasonable, unrealistic, and even in a limitation, which is when things are unreasonable, unrealistic, and not sensical, you're pushed into going until you're unrealistic and not sensical, so that there is a collision of logic. So, just go back, and if it tries to stop you, then it's trying to be limited, and that's why it's occurring. The fact that this construct is being made and forced into an interaction as if it's chasing you, trying to suck you in, well, I'm not showing it, is its own limitation. Now, why it exists, it's illogical, but it exists in something that inherently isn't limited enough for it to exist. So, that argument takes you back outside of it, a full comprehension. If I had my pen on me, I would circle this. And it wants you to get here and cause so much motion that you forget the entire shape of what you're in, and therefore can't describe your way out of it, and can't go back. And so the option you have is either a slow decay or a fast collision.